5 days ago, on Black Friday morning, I woke up at 6 o'clock. My throat felt tight, like someone was squeezing it from the inside. I tried to breathe, but every breath hurt. I stumbled to the kitchen in our house in San Antonio, my lungs screaming for air. And there he was, my 17-year-old brother, Oren, standing in the middle of the tile floor. He was holding every single one of my 6 rescue inhalers in his hands. I froze. My chest was already tightening. I looked at him, hoping he would put them down. But he didn't. He looked me straight in the eyes, tilted the bottles so I could hear the liquid shaking inside, and said with the coldest smile, "Getting tight in the chest already, huh, loser? If I can't have asthma, then neither can you." I begged him. My voice came out as a weak wheeze. I tried to explain that I needed those inhalers to breathe, but he just laughed. "Starting to turn blue yet? How long before you pass out this time?" he said. I couldn't answer. I couldn't move. I just stared at him, my chest getting tighter with every second. That was 5 days ago. And this morning he stood in court, shaking, while the judge read the charges out loud. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me, where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? Hi, my name is Calithra Marsh. I'm 21 years old, and I've had very severe asthma since I was a little kid. Oren, my brother, is 4 years younger than me. That morning, he decided he would control whether I could breathe. If your skin is crawling right now, and you want to know how we went from my brother trying to make me suffocate to him crying in handcuffs, keep listening, because the story only gets scarier. The first time I almost didn't make it was when I was 9 years old. It was a normal Tuesday at my elementary school in San Antonio. Recess had just started. It was already hot outside, about 95 degrees. Some kid kicked a soccer ball into a cloud of dust. I took one breath of that dusty air, and my chest locked up like a fist. I dropped to my knees, clawing at my throat. Everything started to go fuzzy. Teacher screamed. Someone picked me up and carried me to the nurse. The next thing I knew, I was in the back of an ambulance with an oxygen mask on my face. The doctors told my parents that I had severe asthma. They said it could be very dangerous if I didn't always have a rescue inhaler nearby. After that, everything changed. Mom and Dad became full-time protectors. They bought a little lock box for the kitchen that held 4 inhalers at all times. One inhaler lived in my backpack, one in the car, and one was taped under my desk at school. Mom checked the pollen count every morning like it was a weather report. Mom quit her weekend shifts at the hospital so she could drive me to doctor appointments. Dad installed air purifiers in every room. I became the center of their world because if I couldn't breathe, nothing else mattered. Oren was 5 when all of this started. At first, he just watched. His big brown eyes followed me everywhere while Mom counted puffs, and Dad rushed home early from work on days when the air was bad. Then the little thing started. One morning, my backpack inhaler was gone. We tore the house apart and finally found it buried under the couch cushions. The cap was off, and the medicine was wasted. Oren shrugged and said he was playing hide-and-seek with my toy. Mom laughed it off. He was only 5. By the time he was 7, it wasn't funny anymore. Winter nights in San Antonio can get very cold. Cold enough to trigger asthma. I would wake up wheezing because every window in the hallway was cracked open. Oren would be standing there in his pajamas grinning. "It's stuffy in here," he'd say. Mom would scold him gently and close the windows. But the damage was done. I would spend half the night shaking and puffing on my nebulizer while he slept peacefully. When he turned 10, he got bolder. He figured out that ceiling fans could blow the medicine right out of the air after I took a puff. I'd sit on the living room couch trying to catch my breath after a mild attack, and suddenly the fan would roar to life above my head. I'd look up, and there he was on the stairs, finger on the switch, watching to see how long it took me to start coughing again. Mom caught him once and grounded him for a week. That was it. He learned exactly where I kept my spare inhalers. Under the bathroom sink, on the top shelf of my closet, inside the zipper pocket of my gym bag. They started disappearing. I would come home from school and tear my room apart, praying I'd find one before my chest tightened too much. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I had to call Dad at work and listen to him panic on the phone while he raced home. Oren always had the same innocent face. He never got into trouble. Mom and Dad's answer never changed. Oren is just little. He doesn't understand. You're the big sister. Be patient. So I learned to hide my own inhalers in new places every week. I triple-checked the lock on the box. I stopped telling my parents when another one went missing because I knew what they'd say. I got really good at protecting myself. But I never thought I'd have to protect myself from my own family. 2 years ago, everything flipped upside down. It started the week Oren turned 15. We were having a small family party in the backyard. Mom had just brought out the cake when Oren suddenly grabbed his throat. His eyes bulged, and he let out the most terrifying wheeze I had ever heard. He dropped to his knees on the patio bricks, clawing at his neck, face turning purple in seconds. Dad yelled for someone to grab an inhaler. Mom screamed his name. Guests froze. I stood there watching, knowing exactly what a real attack looked like, and something felt wrong, but nobody listened to me. An ambulance came and rushed him to the hospital. 2 hours later, he came home with a brand new diagnosis: severe asthma, just like mine. From that night on, Oren became the star patient. He learned how to make the wheeze sound exactly right. He learned how to time the fake collapses when the most important people were around. In 6 months, he had 5 emergency trips to the hospital. Each time, he came back with new restrictions from the doctors he had convinced. No strong smells in the house. No pets visiting. All the air purifiers now pointed toward his room. He demanded his own nebulizer and a locked case for his medicines, just like mine used to be. Mom turned the spare bedroom into his personal recovery zone, complete with a hospital-grade air filter that cost Dad 2 paychecks. Mom quit her part-time nursing job the day Oren had his 3rd attack at school. She said she couldn't risk being away if he needed her. She started carrying his rescue inhaler in her purse, just like she used to carry mine. She checked on him every hour at night and listened at his door for wheezing that never actually happened when no one was watching. Dad installed a second fridge in the garage just for Oren's medicines and special food. He stopped asking me how my appointments went. When I had a real flare-up after marching band practice, he told me to tough it out because Oren had a doctor's note saying stress made his asthma worse. My own attacks started being treated like small inconveniences. I watched the whole house rearrange itself around my little brother's performance, and I was the only one who saw the cracks. I caught him once in the bathroom mirror practicing the exact shade of blue he could turn his lips by holding his breath. Another time, I found an empty inhaler in his trash can never used. When I asked why he needed 6 refills in 1 month, he just smiled and said, "Guess mine's worse than yours now, huh?" Only one person believed me when I said something was wrong. My best friend, Leora Vey. She'd seen me through real attacks, the kind where I ended up in the hospital, gasping on a ventilator. She started staying over more often, watching Oren like he was a bomb ready to explode. We'd sit in my room whispering while he fake coughed loud enough for Mom to come running. Leora noticed that he only had symptoms when someone important was around. He could run laps in PE when the coach was watching but collapsed the second Mom pulled up to pick him up. I tried talking to Mom. I showed her the unused inhalers and explained the perfect timing of every episode. She looked at me like I was the worst sister on earth. "Calithra, your brother is sick. Stop trying to make this about you," she said. Dad backed her up. "You've had your turn being the center of attention. Let Oren have his." So I shut up. I started keeping my own medicines hidden in Leora's car, just to be safe. I smiled when Oren got new restrictions that made my life harder. I swallowed the rage every time Mom forgot my refill because she was too busy running to the pharmacy for him. Oren had taken everything that used to be mine, my place at the center of the house, my parents' attention, my safety, and he did it with nothing but perfect acting and a smile. And for almost 2 years, he got away with it. Thanksgiving last year was the first time the mask came off in front of everyone. We had 23 people crammed around folding tables, stretching from the dining room into the living room. Turkey, tamales, 3 kinds of pie, and the usual Texas chaos. Leora was spending the night because her parents were out of town. She was already on edge, watching Oren like he was a bomb about to go off. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to pee and noticed Leora wasn't in the guest bed next to mine. 10 minutes later, she slipped back into the room, phone clutched to her chest, eyes huge. "You need to see this," she whispered and hit play. The garage light was on. Oren sat on an old lawn chair, feet up on a cooler, hitting a neon green vape like it was the most normal thing in the world. No coughing. No wheezing. Just laughing at something on his phone. 27 seconds of pure proof. Leora had recorded the whole thing from the side door. I couldn't believe it. The boy who had stolen my inhalers, faked attacks, and made my life a living nightmare was lying. Lying to my parents, lying to the doctors, and lying to the whole world. And that morning, 5 days ago, he tried to take my next breath away completely. I stared at the screen until my hands shook. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I had waited for this moment for so long. Tomorrow, I said to myself, we will end this tomorrow. Morning came, and the house smelled warm and cozy, like coffee and cinnamon. I could hear everyone moving around, busy and noisy. Plates clattered. Kids ran through the hallways laughing and yelling. Some grown-ups were arguing about football on the TV. It was chaotic, just like every family gathering, but this time, I felt like something big was about to happen. Oren waited. He waited until every aunt and cousin had a plate full of food. Then, just when everyone was distracted, he stood up. He clutched his chest like he couldn't breathe. He started the performance of a lifetime. He gasped, staggered sideways, and even knocked over a chair with a loud crash. His face turned red, then purple, like he was really in trouble. He dropped to one knee, making that awful strangled sound he had practiced over and over. Mom screamed and ran to get his rescue inhaler. Half the table jumped up in panic. Someone shouted, "Call 911." Skylar, calm as ever, stood up and walked over to the living room TV. She played a video from her phone. The room went completely silent, except for the hissing sound of Oren's vape smoke curling in the air. You could see the red cherry-flavored cloud floating around his head while he scrolled through TikTok like nothing was happening. The 27 seconds it took for the video to play felt like 27 years. Oren froze mid-act, mouth open, hand clutching his throat, still faking it perfectly. Just then our neighbor Theron Cade, everyone calls him Jerry, happened to be over. He had come to drop off a pie his wife had baked. Jerry is a retired firefighter from San Antonio. Even though he is retired, he still carries a pulse oximeter on his keychain, just out of habit. Before anyone could say a word, Jerry was already kneeling next to Oren. He clipped the device onto Oren's finger. Everyone held their breath. The number blinked, 99%. Jerry looked up, voice calm and serious. "The kid's oxygen is perfect. Healthier than mine." You could hear a fork hit the plate. Dad's face went pale, like cranberry sauce in color. He jumped to his feet so fast his chair fell backward. For the first time in my life, I heard Dad raise his voice at Oren in the living room. Then the rest of us followed, walking slowly behind him, like we were in a funeral march. Mom was crying even before Dad started talking. He made Oren play the video again on the big screen, so everyone could see. He made him sit there and watch his own lie in 4K while 23 relatives stared at him. Then Dad spoke, in a voice that made the house shake. "You have 30 days to pack your stuff and find somewhere else to live. You're done scaring this family. You're done pretending you're sick. And you are definitely done putting your sister second." Oren tried to cry first, hoping that tears would make Dad change his mind. When that didn't work, he yelled that we were all jealous of him. When nobody believed him, he got cold and silent. He looked at me, then Mom, then Dad, and said a sentence I will never forget. "You will all remember this Thanksgiving every single day for the rest of your lives." He grabbed his keys, walked out the front door, and slammed it so hard the wreath fell off. The sound echoed through the house. We didn't see him for weeks after that. Black Friday came. 6 o'clock in the morning. I woke up choking on nothing. My eyes snapped open in the dark. My chest felt tight, like an invisible hand was squeezing it harder with every heartbeat. I reached for the nightstand, but my little orange inhaler, the one that was always there, was gone. Panic set in. I ripped open the drawer and dumped everything on the bed. Empty. My lungs screamed. My airways were closing. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, my bare feet hitting the cold hardwood floor. I staggered down the hallway, clutching the wall for balance. I ran down the stairs 2 at a time, each step jarring my ribs. The kitchen light was already on. My heart froze. The lock box bolted to the counter. My secret hiding place for inhalers was wide open. Empty. I yanked the fridge door, rattling the bottles inside. Checked the cold storage box. Gone. I tore through the pantry shelves, the junk drawer, and even the key safe in Mom's office. Everything was gone. Every single inhaler I had spent the last year hiding was taken. Then the wheezing started for real, high-pitched and sharp, impossible to stop. I spun around, chest heaving, and there he was. Oren stood in the doorway between the kitchen and the garage. Hoodie on, hands behind his back. A clear plastic bag dangled from his fingers. Through the plastic, I could see the shiny silver bottoms of 6 rescue inhalers lined up like bullets. He lifted the bag slowly and gave it a lazy shake, so the canisters clinked together. "Morning, Calithra. Sleep well." My knees buckled. I grabbed the edge of the kitchen island to stay upright. The first real spasm hit. My airways slammed halfway shut. I could actually hear the whistle with every breath. "Oren," I croaked. "Give them back." He stepped fully into the light, looping the bag over his wrist like a trophy. "Give them back," I gasped again, wheezing so hard my whole body shook. He laughed once, short and bitter. After everything, 17 years of you being the only one who mattered because you couldn't breathe. 17 years of me being invisible. Now you get to feel it for real. Another spasm tore through me. My vision tunneled. I slid down the cabinet until I was sitting on the tile, legs sprawled, trying to suck in air that wouldn't come. Oren walked slowly around me, hammer dangling at his side. You want to know how easy it was? He said. Spare key under the fake rock. Same code on the safe since you were 12. You got lazy, Calithra. I thought I was gone for good. He crouched down so we were eye to eye. I could see the anger and hurt in his eyes. He knew exactly how much I depended on those inhalers. I had taken every single one. Bedroom, lockbox, fridge, bathroom, cabinet, even the one I hid in Skylar's glove compartment last month. 6 inhalers. That's all that stood between me and this terrifying moment. My lips tingled. Numbness spread over my face. Blue started creeping in around my lips and fingertips. Please, I rasped, barely able to speak. That's it? No apology, he asked, studying me like I was a puzzle he had to figure out. I know. I'm sorry, I managed to whisper. I stole your entire life. I'm sorry. He swung the bag once like a pendulum. I could walk out right now and let nature take its course. Or, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small claw hammer. He knew exactly where Dad kept it. My heart pounded so hard I thought my ribs would crack. Another spasm hit. I doubled over, forehead hitting the cool tile, wheezing loud enough to fill the whole kitchen. Oren stepped over me, placed the bag on the island, and lined the 6 silver inhalers in a perfect row under the pendant lights. Clock's ticking, big sister, he said quietly. How long before you pass out? He raised the hammer, ready. I couldn't move. My whole body shook with every useless breath I tried to take. 6 inhalers, he said softly. 6 chances you had. Let's see how many you really deserve. The first swing came down fast. Crack! The plastic of the first inhaler exploded into white shards. A thick cloud of medicine burst into the air. That one was for every single time I got a second birthday cake, because the first one might have nuts. The second swing came. Crack! Another inhaler burst, medicine spraying everywhere. That was for every vacation we never took, because the cabin wasn't asthma-friendly enough for Princess Calithra. My arms gave out. I collapsed forward, palms hitting the tile, trying to crawl anywhere that had air. Wheezing ripped through me. Third swing. Crack! White medicine sprayed across the floor like snow. That was for every school play Mom missed because of my flare-ups. I was flat on the floor now. Cheeks pressed against the cool tile, fingernails scraping uselessly as I tried to drag myself toward the back door. My vision pulsed black with every heartbeat. The fourth inhaler. Oren held it to the camera. Tell the camera you taught me how to fake asthma, so I would get attention. Say it clearly, maybe I will stop at 3. I shook my head. My lips were purple. My tongue felt 3 sizes too big. Fifth swing. Crack! The canister burst above my head. Cold medicine rained down into my hair, eyes, and open mouth, but none of it reached my lungs. Only one inhaler was left. Oren crouched beside me, phone still recording, and brushed a strand of hair off my forehead like he used to when we were little. You know what the last one's for? He whispered. For every single day I wished it was me who couldn't breathe so someone would care. He stood slowly, raised the hammer over the final silver canister, and looked straight into the camera. Any last words, Calithra? My body convulsed with one final desperate wheeze. The room was almost completely dark. I could feel my heart beating fast like it was running a race inside my chest. It felt strange, skipping beats, stopping for a moment, and then racing again. I felt scared. Really scared. And then I saw him. He smiled. But it was the coldest, emptiest smile I had ever seen on any person. It made me shiver all over. Time's up. He was holding a hammer in his hand, and he raised it high. I knew he was going to hit me. My body froze and my lungs felt heavy. I couldn't breathe. I closed my eyes and waited. But before the hammer could come down, the back door exploded off its hinges. Mr. Jerry Cade, a 68-year-old retired firefighter from San Antonio, came bursting through the door. He was huge, 240 pounds of strong firefighter muscles. He came into the room like a battering ram. He had been outside watering his roses in the garden at 6:30 in the morning when he heard a sound. It was a long, strange, inhuman wheeze coming from my kitchen window, followed by weak, frantic banging on the glass. He didn't think twice. He dropped the garden hose he was holding, jumped over the fence between our yards, and kicked the back door. The wood splintered, the deadbolt ripped out of the frame, and the door flew open. Jerry saw everything instantly. I was lying on the floor. My skin was the color of ash, gray and lifeless. My lips were purple, and my eyes had rolled back. Oren, my brother, was standing over me with the hammer raised for the final blow. On the granite countertop, 6 inhalers had been destroyed, spilling white medicine powder everywhere like snow. "Drop the hammer now," Jerry shouted. His voice was strong, sharp, and commanding. It was like a gunshot. The hammer clattered to the floor. I didn't even breathe a sigh of relief yet. Jerry was already on his knees beside me in less than 2 seconds. His huge hands carefully tilted my head back and cleared my mouth so I could breathe. He gave me 2 strong rescue breaths. My chest moved slightly. He checked my pulse with 2 fingers on my neck. It was weak and thready. "Come on, Kalithra. Fight for me," he whispered. Then he started full CPR. He gave 2 breaths, 30 chest compressions, 2 breaths, 30 compressions, over and over again. His knees cracked on the hard tile floor, but he never slowed down. Between cycles, he yanked out his phone, called 911, and spoke clearly so the dispatcher could understand everything. 17-year-old female, intentional deprivation of rescue medication, severe asthma, cyanotic, unresponsive. Need engine, medic, and law enforcement code 3 to 1427 Cactus Run Lane. Suspect still on scene, he said. The sirens were already screaming closer. San Antonio Fire Station 51 was only 6 minutes away on a bad day. Today wasn't a bad day. It was a terrifying day. The first SAPD unit burst through the ruined door 4.5 minutes later, weapons drawn. 2 firefighters from Engine 51 followed with their medic kit and stretcher. Jerry never stopped compressions until the paramedic tapped his shoulder and took over my airway. They put a non-rebreather mask on my face, cranked the oxygen up to 15 liters, started a continuous nebulizer machine for my lungs, and pushed 4 epinephrine while another medic inserted a line into my arm. Across the kitchen, the police had Oren face down on the floor. One officer kneeled on his back and handcuffed him tightly. One last inhaler rolled out of his hand and stopped right by my bare foot. "You have the right to remain silent," the officer said. Oren didn't say a word. He just stared at the floor while they hauled him away. Jerry stayed right beside me, holding my hand the entire time. He kept talking softly and calmly. "You're safe now, kid. Breathe with the mask. I've got you. You're not going anywhere." They lifted me onto the stretcher, strapped me down, and wheeled me past the ruined back door and the abandoned garden hose still spraying water across the driveway. The morning sun was just coming up, bright and hot. Jerry climbed into the ambulance with me. He held the oxygen mask on my face the whole ride. Lights and sirens screamed the entire 6 miles to University Hospital. I stopped breathing once in the ambulance. They used a defibrillator, a shock machine, to bring me back. 48 hours later, I woke up in the ICU. I still had a breathing tube down my throat. Machines were helping my lungs work because I couldn't breathe on my own yet. My mom was curled up asleep in the corner chair. My dad stood by the window, shaking with worry. The next morning, when the doctors finally took the breathing tube out, the doctor said, 2 more minutes without intervention, and we would have lost her. Oren didn't see daylight that week. He stayed in juvenile detention until the prosecutor decided to charge him as an adult. Jerry stayed with my parents every day. He brought coffee for my mom, told my dad it wasn't their fault, and promised me that when I woke up, he would stay until I could walk out of the hospital on my own. He kept that promise. Today was the preliminary court hearing at the Behar County Courthouse. I walked in on my own 2 feet, still carrying faint bruises from the chest compressions. I could still taste albuterol in my mouth every time I swallowed. Mom held one arm, Dad held the other. Leora and Mr. Jerry sat directly behind us in the gallery. Oren was already at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, 2 sizes too big, his ankles shackled, staring at the floor. The prosecutor explained everything coldly and clearly. Oren had committed aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. The deadly weapon wasn't the hammer. It was deliberately taking away and destroying my life-saving medicine, knowing I depended on it. In Texas, that is treated like pointing a loaded gun. They played the body camera footage in court. On the video, Oren lined up my inhalers, swung the hammer, and told the camera that I had taught him to fake asthma while I turned blue on the kitchen floor. The judge didn't flinch, but half the gallery gasped out loud. Oren's public defender tried the troubled teen story. He said Oren had a rough childhood and needed help. He tried to make it sound like Oren's actions were a cry for attention. But the prosecutor showed the 911 call, the ruined inhalers, and the video as proof that it was intentional. The judge took less than 10 minutes to make a decision. Oren got 5 years of probation, a felony conviction, mandatory anger management classes, 500 hours of community service, and a permanent no-contact criminal protective order. Any violation would send him to serve the full 5 years in prison. When they called me to the podium for victim impact, my hands were shaking. I spoke the only words I had prepared. You stopped being my brother the moment you decided my last breath was payback. From this day forward, you do not have a sister, and I do not have a brother. That's forever. I didn't wait for his reaction. I turned and walked back to my family. That same afternoon, my dad hired a locksmith. Every door, every window, every gate got new deadbolts. Mom deleted Oren's number from her phone, blocked him on every platform, and erased him from every family photo cloud. We took all the framed pictures off the walls and put them face down in a box in the attic. By sunset, there was no trace he had ever lived in that house. 2 weeks later, the protective order arrived in the mail. Oren Marsh is legally barred from coming within 500 yards of me, my parents, Leora, or Mr. Jerry for the rest of his life. Any violation is a new felony. His probation officer has the address of the house he can never come near. I still keep 7 inhalers now instead of 6. 1 in every room, 1 in the car, 1 on me at all times. Sometimes I wake up at night, my heart racing, reaching for the nightstand, before I remember I am safe. Oren lives somewhere across town with a cousin who took him in. I don't know the address, and I never want to. Jealousy left unchecked can turn someone who once shared your blood into the biggest threat you will ever face. If someone in your life is hiding your medicine, destroying your things, or hurting you to feel important, please tell someone before it is too late. You deserve to breathe. You deserve to live. This is the end of my story with Oren Marsh. He is no longer my brother, and I am finally truly safe. I can walk around my house, open doors, and take my medicine whenever I need it. I can breathe freely. I can sleep at night without fear. I can smile again without feeling scared. I know now that heroes don't always wear uniforms, and sometimes they are neighbors who notice something is wrong and act right away. Mr. Jerry Cade will always be my hero. He ran into a dangerous situation without thinking about himself, just to save me. His actions reminded me that there are good people in the world. People who care. People who will fight for you even when the world feels dark. Life after that day was not easy at first. I had nightmares. Sometimes I woke up sweating, thinking Oren was still there, that he was still going to hurt me. But my parents were always there to hold me. Jerry came over sometimes to check on me and make sure I was okay. He helped me understand that even though the fear might never go completely away, I could still live my life safely. I also learned to forgive myself for feeling scared. It wasn't my fault that Oren hurt me. I didn't do anything to deserve it. No one ever deserves to have their medicine taken away or to feel like their life is in danger. I learned that asking for help is brave, not weak. Now, I keep my inhalers everywhere, just in case. I carry 1 in my backpack, 1 in the car, and have them in every room. I check them often, making sure they are full and ready. It gives me peace of mind. I don't have to be scared anymore because I am prepared. I am safe. I will never forget that morning. The fear, the darkness, the hammer raised over me. But I will also never forget Mr. Jerry Cade, running through that door, saving my life, holding my hand, talking to me, and giving me hope when I had none. He reminded me that even when someone wants to hurt you, there are people who will fight to protect you. I will never forget that the moment someone chooses to hurt you, they stop being your family. Oren is no longer my brother. He made his choice. I made mine. I choose to live, to breathe, and to be safe. And I will never let anyone take that from me again.